All right, this is a video I want to take of the second place that I stayed at when I got here to Miami. I only had the cash money that I had in my pocket. I had $1,400. This is second place, but this is the hotel that I was going to stay at. Low Hood Hotel, $50 a night. So if you ever come to Miami, you need somewhere cheap to stay at. It's right by the Miami International Airport. Airport's right there. Miami Springs Inn. This is where I was going to stay at for $50 a night, but I got here too late. They shut down the office, so I couldn't get in. So I walked down the road trying to find somewhere else cheap to go to. Everything was closed down because I had to ride the bus. I couldn't get here till late, so everything was closed. So that's why I decided to sleep behind that bush. And then that same spot is where I put the tent, my first tent. That was the second spot. The first spot I stayed at was in downtown Miami. When I first got here to Miami, from Ohio, rode a Greyhound bus. I stayed in a storage unit downtown Miami, public storage. Stayed there for about 2 weeks. Then they started closing at 6. So I'll always get there too late. So I had to find a second spot to stay at. This is the spot I'm about to show you, but this is the hotel I was going to stay at. Miami Springs Inn, cheap hotel if you need somewhere cheap to stay at. I never did stay here, but you know what I mean? Everything goes on here right across the street from the airport. Miami Springs Inn. A little rinky-dink place. Now I'll take you up here to the second spot where I was going to stay. Raining out right now. It's Florida. It just got done pouring down rain. But hey, you know what I mean? I still got to make this video. I'm working right now. It's the only day I got off, so I decided to make it. But here it is, little spot right here, Miami Springs Inn. I didn't get to stay there, so I started walking down the road right here. This is when I was walking. I had to take the bus here. It's before I got my bicycle. Then after the bicycle, I got that e-bike. Now I got a Ford Transit, right across the street from the airport right here. It's the airport, Miami International Airport, right there. Right across the street from it. So I just started walking down this way. I was trying to find another cheap hotel to go to. Everything was closed down, not everything was closed down. That's right. I didn't have a credit card. I only had the cash in my pocket, so I didn't have a credit card. There goes the plane right there. But I didn't have a credit card. I didn't have a bank account or nothing at the time. I'm just pretty much fresh out of jail. That's the reason why I was in Ohio. I stayed with my brother, just fresh out of jail. Didn't have nothing but the clothes on my back. My brother was able to save some of my clothes and stuff that he went down and got the cars and that I gave him. So I did have some clothes, but, I got some clothes and stuff while I was there, but I only came here to Miami from Ohio, with the suitcase, clothes and the $1,400 that I, got there when I was in Ohio. Took the bus here because I always wanted to come. I was in Florida. Well, that's when I was in jail in Orlando, in Polk County. So I was in jail for a while. I lost my business and everything. I always wanted to come to Miami. I told my brother, I was going to, come to Miami. I want to get my music and everything together, have more opportunities. And this is Miami Springs, right by Hialeah. So this is like 15 minutes from downtown Miami. That's in the public storage I stayed at downtown Miami. About 15-minute drive. But I was walking, I was taking the bus and riding my bike and that everywhere. So, you know what I mean? Now I got a vehicle. It's like a 15-minute drive, depending on traffic. Get up on 95, and it's crazy every day. But hey, I-4 in Orlando was crazy too, so I'm already used to that. Well, yeah, I went to a couple of these. This Days Inn right here. Went to a couple of these. None of them took cash. The one back there, the Hood Hotel, you know, they took cash, but I decided to ride the bus. I couldn't get there in time. I barely made the bus at the time, you know. So I just started walking, kept walking up here, you know, kept walking, trying to find a place. And then what happened was there was this gas station up here. And, you know, I was tired by this time, you know, it was late. I was tired. So I was like, you know, I got to find a place to crash. So, you know, I found this, you know, this is an industrial spot, you know, right by the airport and everything. Industrial spot. So it's the first gas station I passed here. And then, you know, I just kept walking. I thought there would be another hotel up here I might be able to go to pay cash. Couldn't find nothing. So seen these bushes out front of this building. I was like, hey, you know, I got to crash somewhere. So I seen them, you know, I was like, hey, you know, maybe I can go in back of one of those bushes and crash out. So that's what I did. I went behind the bush. I looked, and sure enough, you know, there was cardboard in that there anyway. Someone, you know, homeless person was already crashing out there. So I went back there and crashed out. Well, what I went up to the gas station that was right there. Went to the gas station, and then I went in the dumpster. You know what I mean? Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, man. This is, you know, from rags to riches story. You know what I mean? I plan on making it big. Here goes another airplane. Plan on making it big. Not planning on it, but I'm going to. I'm working on self-improvement and everything. So, you know, this is my story. This is my journey. You know, so what I went to that gas station, went in the dumpster. I got a couple of cardboard boxes. I folded them out, laid them down, crashed out for that night. Well, for about 2 or 3 nights, I did the same thing. And, you know, I just wanted to test the spot out. So as soon as I test the spot out, I was like, hey, you know, this is pretty good. No one notices me back here, nothing. No one's messed with me. You know, there was bottles, there was trash, there was stuff back there. You know, I cleaned all that up eventually, but, you know, someone was back already before, and if they didn't clean that stuff up, the maintenance or nothing before, then, you know, they don't even know about it. So, you know, I ended up getting a tent and everything, and you know, threw the tent up and everything back there. And that's where I stayed at for about another couple weeks. It's the McDonald's right here that I would go in there and charge my phone. You know, there's a downtown Miami don't have no electric in restaurants because of homeless people. You know, you can't find no electric outlets nowhere. But once you start getting outside of, you know, Miami, you start getting, you know, as long as there ain't no homeless people around and stuff, you know, they'll have electric outlets, and this McDonald's had electric outlets in there. I'd go in there and charge my phone. You know, I'd get breakfast and get something to eat too. You know what I mean? But I was here for about 2 weeks. And then I just, you know, that's when I started looking for a job. You know, I ran my own business doing lawn service and that, so I got me another lawn service job, saved up. You know, I quit smoking weed and everything, and, you know, I'm on my journey to making it big, and that's where I'm going to go. So I want you to join me on this journey. You know, and we can do it together, man. If I can do it, if I can, you know, have a rags to riches story, came from nothing, only had $1,400 in my pocket, and you can do it too. Anybody can do it if they put their mind to it. You know, a while back, probably, I don't know, about 6 years or more back, I started listening to Jim Rohn, started listening to, you know, mentors on YouTube, Earl Nightingale, you know, Earl Shove, you know, Jim Rohn's mentor. And I started listening to, you know, all these great books, you know, and reading great books. You know, one great one was, you know, The Richest Man in Babylon. You know, I read it, I listened to it, I still listen to it today and learn from it. You know, and that's what I started doing, getting on this self-improvement journey. And, you know, learning. And, you know, when I got out of jail, I was smoking weed, you know, every day, all day. You know, I got back to smoking weed. I thought I needed it and that. But, hey, man, I'll tell you right now, you know, you don't need weed to be happy. You don't need liquor. You don't need any of that to be happy. What you need, what really makes you happy in life is working on self-improvement, working on yourself, working harder on yourself than you do on your job. And that's what's going to make you happy, is knowing that you're accomplishing your goals. You know, when you know you're accomplishing your goals, you know, that's what really makes you happy. And that's what makes me happy today, is I know I'm accomplishing my goals. I know that when I write goals down, I have a system, in order to do them. This is what I got to do. This is how much I want to make. I have a budget. I don't spend my money on nothing, only what I need to spend my money on. I'm living in my Ford Transit right now, so I don't really have no bills or nothing. I just got a couple bills. I got my storage unit, that I'm keeping my stuff in to start my own businesses up, you know. So I got that, I got my, a couple bills that I got to pay, but I don't spend my money on nothing that I don't need to spend my money on. The only thing I spend my money on is food, gas, and my bills, and I buy some coffee too. But even then, I try to buy the coffee that I can make at Walmart. I buy everything, I get it. I got a cooler, I got to buy ice, but, thought about getting a generator in that set up. But, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bigger shop where I can, run my businesses and that out of, and I'm going to make a living quarters, in the shop. But here's the second gas station. This is the gas station I went and got the cardboard boxes out of the dumpster. This one right here, I'll show you. I'm about to come up on it right now. I went in here, I went up. I'll show you that bush. I'll show you when I went back there. But this is the spot. This is the gas station. I came here, right on this busy street. It's always busy, but hey, wasn't no problem. I'm used to sleeping with cars and everything coming out anyway. This is a dumpster right here, and I just go in there and get some cardboard boxes out of this dumpster right here. Bang. I lift that latch up, go in there. Got a couple cardboard boxes, and then I would walk back here, and there's homeless people all over the place. There was, a couple homeless people around here, so they already, workers in that already know what's up. But, I'd coming back and back. I'd walk back here. This hotel right here, I didn't even check it out because I already had a spot, so I wasn't trying to, hotels ain't cheap, so, and then I would come through here. Well, I did check that dumpster, but they never had nothing in there, this restaurant. But what I would do is I would come on the side of this bush. I would walk through here. And that's why I didn't even stay, I didn't even try to, I was going to get that motel just because it was cheap, but I wasn't planning on staying there every night because, that's going to be, I didn't have the money for that. So I knew I had to find somewhere to stay. But I'd walk through here, and I'd come back to the main street. I just went behind there. That way no one really seen me, with the cardboard boxes, It's a little embarrassing, but hey, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. So this is the bush right here, right behind there. I was walking here. I seen these bushes. I was like, hey, man, these look pretty good. Look like I'll be able to stay back there. You know what I mean? Right on the main street, there's that restaurant. I'd walk behind, there's a gas station right there. So yeah, I'd go there, I'd get the cardboard boxes, I'd come right here. Well, I did it for about 3 days. And I'd come behind this bush. Right here. Yeah, cardboard boxes are still there. Come behind this bush. Right here, I'd crash out. Crashed out here for about 3 days. Right behind this bush. And then back here is where I made that tent. Yep, it's still there. There's the tent. Yeah, I'm gonna put this tent back here. Just a little kid's tent. Yeah, everything's still here. Yep. Air mattress in there. Nothing really in here. I took everything out, but that's it. A little bit dark out right now. It's about 6 o'clock or so, but that's the tent. There's the water raft is what it is. It's a blow up water raft I use, to sleep. But yeah, right back at this edge. No one knew I was back here or nothing. Came back here, crashed out for about 3 days. You know, no one knew I was even back here. You know, you gotta do what you gotta do. There it is. I'd walk back through here. Well, I'd take my bike back here too, especially once I got that electric bike. You know, I'm surprised no one even found this. You know, no homeless person found this spot, but maybe they did and they just ain't staying here. You zip this up real quick. There it goes. But yeah, there it is. That's the tent. Stayed there for about a week or so, you know, and then I found another job. Found a side job, you know, paying a little bit. I worked that for a couple days. Yeah, there's the cardboard and stuff that I stayed on at first. Stayed there, you know, stayed here for about a week or so. Then I had to go. I had to move elsewhere, you know, to find that job where I'm at right now. But yeah, that's it. Right behind that hedge, right behind this bush, right back there. Yeah, just go back there. Stayed back there for about, you know, a week or so. And then I got another job. I got a full-time job. It was in let's see, I'm in Hialeah right now, Miami Springs. So I got a job in where was it? At Coral Springs. Got a full-time job, Coral Springs, but the guys wasn't too good to me, so I started. Well, no, what it was is I filled out for like 10 or 15 jobs. So another job called me back. That's the job I'm at right now at the hospital. They called me back. So I went ahead and got the job there, and I'm still working there now, and I'm already in charge, riding the golf cart around, doing what I got to do there, and making good money, saving up, get that bigger shop, get these businesses going, and keep moving up. And that's what it is, moving up the ladder. That's what it's all about. Crazy traffic here in Miami. It always is, especially in the rain, but hey, you can do it. You can do it. If you want to make it in life, if you want to succeed in life, you got to put your mind to doing it and do what you got to do, man. I stayed right here behind this bush. I already got a car. I only been here about 4 months or so. Homeless people, they're homeless because they want to be homeless. You know what I mean? I already got a car. I already got a nice place to sleep and everything. And that's what I'm going to continue to do is get a shop, get a nice place to stay, and continue moving up the ladder. And you can do it too. So join me on this journey to success. We can do it together.